Hi friends, it's Julia, and today we are talking about how a single sentence can turn a shaky GMAT argument into a much more solid argument. If you've ever looked at a critical reasoning passage and thought, wait, that's it? You are not alone. Many GMAT arguments are weak on purpose. That's often your cue to step in and strengthen them. Let's talk about how. First things first, what makes an argument weak? Typically, it's missing crucial support. You'll read a conclusion, maybe a brief premise or some background information, and that's all you're given. No solid evidence, no connection, just a jump from context to conclusion. For example, Breeze-tricity, a company that uses windmills to generate electrical power, plans to install a large windmill facility in the developing country Erdal. Even though the generating capacity of Erdal's 3 coal-fired generating facilities is expected to exceed the country's electricity demand for at least the next decade, Breeze-tricity expects its new windmill facility in Erdal to be profitable within 5 years. Which of the following, if true, most strongly justifies Breeze-tricity's contention? So, this argument gives us some background information, and then it gives us a conclusion in spite of that information. We should select an answer that provides a premise to support the conclusion, one such as several international corporations interested in building manufacturing plants in Erdal will do so only if there is a source of pollution-free power. Now we have some expected demand for Breeze-tricity's planned energy increase. This answer makes their conclusion about profitability way more likely, or in fact, likely at all. When a strength question shows up, your job isn't to prove the conclusion. It's to make it more likely than it was on its own. Here is your must know. You do not need to prove the author right. You just need to help their case. Let's look at a slightly stronger argument. The government of Kartona has decided to address the high rate of diabetes in Kartona by adding a 20% tax to the purchase price of sugary drinks. Since sugary drinks are the source of most of the refined sugar consumed by people in Kartona, the government's position is that imposing the tax will result in a significant reduction in people's consumption of refined sugar. Which of the following, if true, provides the most support for the government's position? This argument does have some support for the conclusion, unlike the last argument. Taxes are theoretically a deterrent to purchasing sugary drinks, since they effectively increase the price, and we know that sugary drinks are the source of most of the refined sugar consumed by these people. But we could definitely do more to tie this premise to the conclusion, because the conclusion is about consuming refined sugar as a whole and not just via sugary drinks. For example, we could say most people in Kartona who drink sugary drinks choose them instead of healthier drinks that contain less sugar, simply because the sugary drinks are 15% less expensive than the healthier ones. This choice would show that the tax is likely to be effective. It rules out a possible flaw in the plan, which is that the 20% tax isn't enough to dissuade Kartonians from purchasing sugary drinks. Or we could say, if a 20% tax were added to the price of sugary drinks, people in Kartona would not begin consuming similar amounts of sugar via consuming candy and sweet desserts. This choice rules out a different way that the plan could fail: substitute goods. Since the tax isn't on the only source of refined sugar, people just switching to other sources is a concern. The argument wasn't super strong, but with either of these extra premises, it is much improved. These two choices present a couple of common ways that arguments are strengthened. One is that they add a missing premise, like that there will be demand to meet an increase in supply. The other is that they confirm an assumption, explicitly state an assumption the argument relies on, like showing that the tax will increase prices enough that people will care at all and alter their behavior in response, or showing that people won't just switch to some other source of refined sugar in response to the taxes. Remember, strengthened questions are your chance to be the author's friend. Look for what they have left out and provide that missing link. One good fact can change everything. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time with more GMAT strategy.